We are now in Daf Yud Beis, Amud Beis, and Meseches Brachos. This is Berachos Daf 12b. The Gemara now continues its discussion of how a person is supposed to bow during Shmona Esrei. Rav Sheshes ki kara kechizra, ki kazakif zakif kechivya. When Rav Sheshes would bow, Rashi explains he bowed like a staff. He went down quickly, and when he stood up, straightened up, he came up like a snake. He came up slowly to show that the bowing was not a burden upon him. V'omar Rabba Bar Chinana Sava Shmei Derav. Another statement from Rabba Bar Chinana in the name of Rav. Kol Hashana Kula Adam Mispalel Hakel Hakadosh Melech Ohev Tzedakah Umishpat. All year long, a person should say in Shmona Esrei Hakel Hakadosh and Melech Ohev Tzedakah Umishpat Chutz Me'asara Yomim Shebein Rosh Hashanah v'Yom Kippurim, except for the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, what we refer to as the Aseres Yimei Teshuvah. Shemispalel HaMelech Hakadosh v'HaMelech HaMishpat. Then a person should say HaMelech HaKadosh and HaMelech HaMishpat. Rabbi Elazar Amar, and Rabbi Elazar says Afilu Amar Hakel HaKadosh Yatza. Even if a person says Hakel HaKadosh, he is Yotze Shenemar, like it says Vayigba Hashem Tzavakos B'Mishpat v'Hakel HaKadosh Nikdash B'Tzedakah. So Amosai Vayigba Hashem Tzavakos B'Mishpat. When is the time that HaKadosh Baruch Hu grabs in the midah of justice, the midah of Mishpat, of judgment? Elo Asar Yamim Shemei Rosh Hashanah v'Yad Yom HaKippurim. Those are the 10 days between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So the pasuk is referring to the Aseres Yimei Teshuvah. V'Ka'amar Hakel HaKadosh. And what does the pasuk say? It says Hakel HaKadosh. So you see that even during the Aseres Yimei Teshuvah, a person can say Hakel HaKadosh. My Have Allah. What is the psak? Amar Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef says Hakel HaKadosh u'Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat. You should say Hakel HaKadosh and Melech Ohev Tzedakah Mishpat. Rabba Amar HaMelech HaKadosh v'HaMelech HaMishpat. Rabba says you should say HaMelech HaKadosh and HaMelech HaMishpat. V'Hilchasa Kerabba. The halacha is like Rabba. 2 dots. V'yamar Rabba Bar Chinana Sava Mishmei Derav. Another statement from Rabba Bar Chinana in the name of Rav. Kol she'efshar lo levakesh rachamim al chaveiro. Anybody who is able to daven on behalf of his friend ve'eino mevakesh, and he does not do so, nikra chote, he is considered, he's called a sinner. Shenemar, like it says, Gam anochi chalilo li mechato la'Hashem mechado lehispalel ba'adchem. Chalilo li chas v'shalom, that I should stop from davening on your behalf. That pasuk is a pasuk by Shmuel. Shmuel says about the people that he will not stop davening on their behalf. This was following the moment when they asked for a king. Amar Rava, Rava says in Talmud Chacham, who if he is a Talmud Chacham, tzarich sheyechla atzmo olav, he has to make himself sick over it. My time, what's the reason? Ilay mishum dechsiv ve'ein chola mikem olai v'goles ozni. This is Shaul saying that none of you were sick, none of you davened on my behalf. In the situation where David HaMelech was on the run, and this was right before Shaul killed out the city of Nov, the city of Kohanim. He said Shaul was complaining that nobody davened on my behalf. So Dilma Melech Shani, that's no proof. Maybe a king is different. Ela Mehacha, rather it comes from the following pasuk: V'ani b'chalosam levushi. On those times when they were sick, in their times of peril, I wore sackcloth and I davened on their behalf. This is talking about, Rashi here explains. Rashi says, B'chalosam, this is talking about Doeg and Achitofel. They were Talmidei Chachamim, and David HaMelech says about them in Tehillim this idea that he davened on their behalf. V'omar Rabba Bar Chinana Sava Mishmei Derav. Rabba Bar Chinana again says in the name of Rav. Kol ha'osa dvar aveira u'misbayesh bo. Anybody who does an aveira and he's embarrassed by it, mochlin lo al kol avonosav. We forgive him for all of his sins. Shenemar, like it says, L'man tizkri uvosht v'loya l'cha od pischon peh mibnei kli masech b'chafri lach l'chol asher asisa num Hashem Elokim. So here it talks about forgiveness of Hashem. And it says it right after, it talks about Laman Tiskri Uvosht, when you are embarrassed of your sin. The Gemara says, Dilma Tzibor Shani. That pasuk is talking about the group, the whole Klal Yisrael, the whole Kahal. So maybe a Tzibor is different. How do we know this is true? By an individual. Ela mehacha, rather it comes from here. The pasuk says, Vayomer Shmuel el Shaul. Shmuel said to Shaul, Lama hirgaztani lahalos osi Vayomer Shaul tsar li ma'od uplishtim nilchamim bi. So why did you anger me? He answered back, the plishtim were fighting with me. V'Hashem sar me alai v'lo aneni od gam biyad hanavim gam bechalomos. HaKadosh Baruch Hu turned away from me. V'akar l'chol hodieni ma'as, and I turned to you to ask, what should I do? So the Gemara explains, why is this a proof to this idea that if a person is embarrassed, V'ilu urim v'tumim lo ka'amar. Shaul never mentions the urim v'tumim in this whole discussion, mishum dekatle lenov ir hakohanim, because he killed out the city of Nov ir hakohanim. So he was embarrassed that he had killed out the city of Nov. He had not asked the urim v'tumim properly. He had not gone to war properly. So this shows that Shaul was embarrassed about this aveira of killing out the city of Nov. Uminayin da'achilu le'min shemayin. How do we know that Shaul was forgiven? The second half of this promise is that when a person is embarrassed of his sins, he's forgiven for all of his sins. Shenemar, like it says, Umachar ata uvanecha imi. Tomorrow you and your sons will be with me. V'yamar Rabbi Yochanan, and Rabbi Yochanan says, Imi b'mechitzasi. You are with me in my special room, in my mechitza, within my walls. So you see that HaKadosh Baruch Hu forgave Shaul, and he welcomed him to within his mechitza. V'Rabbanan amri mehacha. The Rabbanan say from the following pasuk, V'okanim laHashem begivas Shaul bechir Hashem. Yatzda Baskol v'yamra bechir Hashem. This pasuk, which refers to Shaul as the chosen one of Hashem, is actually referring to a Baskol which came out and said that Shaul was forgiven. He was the bechir Hashem, the chosen one of Hashem. Amar Rav Yavo ben Zutrasi, Amar Rav Yehuda bar Zavida. So Rav Avo ben Zutrasi says in the name of Rav Yehuda bar Zavida, Bikshu lekvoa parshas Balak b'kriyas Shema. They wanted to put the parsha of Balak within the parsha, or within the parshios of Kriyas Shema. Why did they not do so? Mishum Torah Chtziva, because it would have been a tircha. It's a very long parsha. My time, what's the reason? If the reason why they wanted to put it into the parsha of Kriyas Shema was because it mentions that HaKadosh Baruch Hu took us out of Mitzrayim, Leima parshas Ribis u parshas Mishkolos. The parsha about Ribis, about interest, the parsha about weights, they also mention Yitzias Mitzrayim. So why mention this specifically? Alam Rav Yossi bar Avin Mishum Dechsiv Ba Hai Kra. The reason is because in the parsha Bilam, the following pasuk is written, Kara Shochav Ka'ari Uchilavi Mi Yikimenu. It mentions Shochav like Uveshach B'cha, like Uveshach B'cha of Kumecha. So therefore we wanted to mention this idea. Rashi says, the dummy Liveshach B'cha of Kumecha Sha'Kadosh Baruch Hu Shomreinu B'Shachveinu Uvekumenu. So it means to say that HaKadosh Baruch Hu watches us when we lie down, when we get up. It is similar to the psukim in Kriyas Shema. V'leima ha'psuka v'sulo. So the Gemara says, if that's the case, just say that pasuk and only that pasuk. Why not? Why do you have to say the whole parsha Bilam just to get that pasuk in? Gemara answers, Gemiri, it has been taught, Kol parsha de paska Moshe Rabbeinu paskinan, to lo paska Moshe Rabbeinu lo paskinan. A parsha which Moshe Rabbeinu has broken up, we can say broken up in that fashion. But for us to break up, take out one pasuk from an entire parsha and break up a parsha in a way that Moshe Rabbeinu did not, is not appropriate. Parshas Tzitzis mipnei ma kavua. Why is the parsha of Tzitzis part of the parshios of Kriyas Shema? Amar Rav Yehuda bar Chaviva mipnei sheyesh ba chamisha devarim. Rav Yehuda bar Chaviva says it's because it has the following 5 things: mitzvahs Tzitzis, Yitzias Mitzrayim, all mitzvos v'das minim, hira aveira v'hira avodah zara. It mentions the mitzvah of Tzitzis, the going out of Mitzrayim, the yoke of mitzvahs that are upon us, the heretics, which we'll see what that means in a moment. Hira aveira, the thoughts of aveira and the thoughts of avodah zara. Those will be explained. Bishalom hani tlos mefarshin. I understand the 3 of them which are explicit. All mitzvos dechsiv ureisem oso uzachartem is called mitzvos Hashem. You will remember all the mitzvos of Hashem. That is the yoke of mitzvos. Tzitzis dechsiv yasu lahem tzitzis. It says explicitly tzitzis. Yitzias Mitzrayim dechsiv asher otzesi v'gomer. It talks about Yitzias Mitzrayim. Eladas minim hira aveira v'hira avodah zara minon. What are these last things referring to? Das minim hira aveira and hira avodah zara. The Tanya we learned in a braysa, acharei levavchem zuminis. Those who going after your hearts, you shouldn't go after your hearts. That refers to minus. V'cheinu omer omar novel belibo ein elokim. The fool says in his heart that there is no God. Minus refers to the fact that a person, the parsha is warning a person against saying that there is no God. Acharei einechem, when it says after your eyes, zehir hur aveira, that refers to thoughts of doing aveira. Shenemar vayomer Shimshon el aviv osa kachli kihi yashara be'enai. It says Shimshon says that he wanted this particular woman because she is yashara be'enai, she is good in my eyes. So don't go after your eyes, the thoughts of aveira. And then finally, Atem Zonim, what does that refer to when the pasuk in Kriyas Shema says Atem Zonim Zahir Hor Avodah Zara? That refers to straying after Avodah Zara, thoughts of Avodah Zara, V'cheinu Omer, like it says, Vayiznu Acharei Habal, and they strayed after the Baal, which was an Avodah Zara. We are now at the Mishnah at the bottom of Yud Beis, Amud Beis, Mazkirin Yitzias Mitzrayim Baleilos. We mention Yitzias Mitzrayim at night. Amar Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah. Rabbi Elazar ben Azariah said, Harei ani keven shivim shana. It is like I am 70 years old. And I did not merit to understand where we have a source for saying Yetzias Mitzrayim at night. How do we know to say that parsha as part of Kriyat Shema at night, just like in the morning? I didn't have a source until Ben Zoma said the following drasha, Shenemar, like it says, L'man tizkor es yom tzeischa me'eretz Mitzrayim kol yemei chayecha. Remember the day of Yetzias Mitzrayim, all the days of your life. Yemei chayecha hayamim. When the pasuk says Yemei chayecha, it means to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim during the day. Kol yemei chayecha haleilos. When it says Kol yemei chayecha, all the days of your life, it refers to the nights as well. The Chachamim say Yemei chayecha ha'olam hazeh. Yemei chayecha refers to this world. Kol, the extra word Kol, all the days of your life. Lahavi limos haMashiach, to say that we mention Yetzias Mitzrayim even during the times of Mashiach. Zok the Gemara. Tanya. We learned in a brayso. Amar lahem ben Zoma lechachamim. Ben Zoma said to the Chachamim. This is the same Ben Zoma and the Chachamim that are arguing in the Mishnah over what the word kol includes. Does it include to say Yetzias Mitzrayim at night or the days of Mashiach? So Ben Zoma said to the Chachamim, V'chi maskirin Yetzias Mitzrayim liyemos HaMashiach. Do we really mention Yetzias Mitzrayim at the times of Mashiach? V'alo kvar nemar. Doesn't it say Hine yomim bo'im ne'um Hashem v'lo yomru od chai Hashem asher helo as b'nei Yisrael me'eretz Mitzrayim ki im chai Hashem asher helo v'asher hevi as zera beis Yisrael. So basically the pasuk is saying that in the future days we're no longer going to say that, so here is Hashem, behold Hashem who took us out of Mitzrayim. Instead we're going to say Hashem who brought us from the land of the north and from all the lands where they were spread out. So we're not going to mention Yetzias Mitzrayim because we're going to mention what presumably will be an even greater miracle, the incoming of the Goliath in the times of Mashiach. So Amru Lo, they said back to him, the Chachamim said back to Ben Zoma, Lo shetayakar Yetzias Mitzrayim imakoma. That pasuk does not mean to say to uproot Yetzias Mitzrayim, that will not be mentioned at all. Ella shetahei shibun malchios ikar v'Yetzias Mitzrayim tafelo. All that pasuk means is that the Shibun Malchios will be the main thing we'll remember at that time, and Yetzias Mitzrayim will be secondary to it, but it will not be forgotten completely. Kayotze bo ata omer. Similarly, we find that it says Lo yikare shimcha od Yaakov ki im Yisrael yiyeshemecha. That Yaakov Avinu, it said he's no longer going to be called Yaakov, but Yisrael will be your name. Does that mean that we are no longer going to have the name Yaakov at all? As the Gemara will say on the next daf, it does not mean that, but it means that the name will be secondary. That is the end of Daf Yud Beis Amud Beis, Daf 12b in Meseches Brachos.